Good evening and welcome to Moral Politics. I'm your host, Bill Wolford. Jews who are committed to Israel should not challenge or ignore facts of wrongdoing. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel for its harsh treatment of Palestinians. Sympathy for Palestinians results from their suppression by Israel for over 60 years. I paraphrase the statement by Rabbi Ben Zion Gold, scholar and Holocaust survivor. My guest and author, Dr. Alice Rothschild, quoted Rabbi Ben Zion Gold in her book, Broken Promises, Broken Dreams. Tonight, we discuss the theme of Dr. Rothschild's book about awakening to the truths of Israel. It is a courageous book. It is my distinct honor to welcome Dr. Rothschild as guest to Moral Politics.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thank you. Your book traces a personal journey with Judaism and Israel as centerpieces. How painful was it to speak out about Israel's misdeeds?
Well, this was a gradual process, and I think it's important to remember where I was starting from, because like many Jews who grew up in the 50s, I grew up with a very uncritical view of what was going on in Israel, and with a total lack of knowledge of the real history of the region. So this awakening happened over the process of my becoming a more politically aware person.
Were you raised observant?
I was raised in a conservative temple where I went to Hebrew school 3 days a week. I had a bat mitzvah. My family made a pilgrimage to Israel when I was 14. We didn't keep kosher, but it was very clear that we were a Jewish family growing up in a small New England town, that I was expected to marry a Jewish man, that I was part of the continuum of Jewish history, and my mother was a writer about Jewish topics, so Jewishness was a very core tenet in my family.
So you had all the narratives that one could have about Judaism and all the myths that we see as myths today about Israel and Judaism of the day.
I didn't think they were myths. I grew up in a cultural context, which was the cohesive sort of tribal Judaism with some religion thrown in, but not fully orthodox.
So none of the contradictions that we talk about today were
oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, I mean, you got to remember that Golda Meir said, you know, there were no Palestinians. This is a land without a people and a people without a land. I bought that. And there was no reason why I wouldn't buy that, because I had no information to the contrary.
How much of a role did the Holocaust play in this shaping these narratives that shaped you?
I think the Holocaust is critical in understanding this conflict. You've got to remember that the Holocaust was absolutely devastating for Jews in particular. There was also the Zionist movement that had been cooking along since the late 1800s. There was the Christian messianic desire to get the Jews into the Holy Land so that there could be the second coming. I mean, all these things came together, but the Holocaust really spurred it forward.
Zionism, what does it really convey?
There are Zionists who feel that this is an area of the world that'd be for Jews only, and there's everything in between. There are Zionists who feel that we have a right to a nation because, you know, French people have a right to France. I mean, there's all sorts of varieties of Zionism.
You mentioned in your book Jewish sensibilities. Now, are we coming close to what Jewish sensibilities are when we talk Holocaust?
The Jewish sensibilities mean, when does the edge hit anti-Semitism? So a lot of people get afraid of criticizing the behavior of the Israeli government because then they're accused of anti-Semitism. Right. And I would argue that there's a tremendous difference between being critical of an occupation or the invasion of Gaza and being anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic means that you hate someone because they're Jewish.
It sounds like growing up Jewish, you have this sense of cohesion in a tribal community, more or less.
Absolutely. I mean, Jews have always been a minority community. We've lived in ghettos. You know, it's a closed sort of shtetl environment, and that's part of why Jews survived. And so I was brought up with, you got to keep that one going because the tribe really works.
How does Israel fit into this elixir of Jewish cohesion, the tightness, the narratives? It seems to be such a centerpiece.
People who believe in this particular mythos is that there's a place where you can be safe. And that's what's so ironic about the way Israel has been evolved as a society, is that originally people were going there for safety.
Growing up, there really wasn't a lot of debate contrary to Israel.
if you look at, back in the 70s, the U.S. State Department said that, ongoing settlements were against a Geneva Convention, which is an international convention. I didn't know that. I mean, it wasn't part of the public debate. And certainly within the Jewish community, and still today within the Jewish community, there is little to no debate, although there's more now.
You talk about it in your book.